So the last few videos we have been exploring this command from First Peter, where he also quotes it from Leviticus when God says, "Be holy as I am holy." And we've been thinking about the theological term with this command, that is sanctification. We've explored a really good definition of what sanctification and personal holiness is through a good definition and as well as an implication of it last week in fearing God. So I just want to think a little more about this, and I'm hoping to encourage you today in this video around this biblical imperative, being holy as God is holy. And that's probably the first thing I'd want to say. As we think about sanctification, as we think about our personal growth in holiness like God, we need to understand He is the standard of what it means to be holy. He is the standard of a sanctification, not the world around us, not specifically not the fallen world around us, or not even the world around us in our local church community, fellow believers. God is the standard of sanctification. He is the standard of holiness. And I have been reminded of this multiple places in Scripture. Think, for example, when Isaiah in Isaiah 6 stands before the throne of God, and he says in Isaiah 6, verse 5, "Then I said, Woe is me, for I am ruined, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and because my eyes have now seen the King, the Lord of armies." Isaiah is seeing and standing before God, realizing that God is holy, God is supreme, God is the standard, and he, as well as the people that he lives with, are not meeting this standard. So I think that would be the first thing just to take away, would be realizing as we continue to grow, as we progress in our sanctification, as we strive to be holy, it's as God is holy, He is our standard. But I'd also want to include in this that we are never going to hit that mark in this life. We are never going to be perfect in this life or reach our glorified state, as the theological term glorification gets out. I like to think of sanctification as a plodding process. Sometimes you go one step forward, other times it's two step back. Then maybe you go two steps forward in your growth in sanctification and it's one step back. It's not a straightforward, quick process. You don't wake up one morning and all of a sudden realize, wow, I am so much more holy today than I was yesterday. That's why I like to term and think of it as plotting. Our personal sanctification and the pace of it sometimes is quicker. We maybe are feeling close to God, but maybe growing a lot more during a season of life. We are experiencing that spiritual fire from the Lord. And then other times in our lives, it's a slow, methodical, drawn out pace where we don't feel like we're treading too much ground. It feels like we're kind of treading in place a lot. And this kind of reminded me of what Paul says in Romans 7. Let me read that for us. Paul says in Romans 7, in verse 15, Paul the apostle says, "For I do not understand what I am doing, because I do not do what I want to do, but I do in fact what I hate." And then he says down in verse 20, if I do what I do not want to do, I am no longer the one that does it, but it is the sin that lives within me." I would just like to encourage you guys as we think about our sanctification, as we think about being holy as God is holy. It has its better days than others. Some days are good, some days are bad. So, like I said, some days it's 2 or 3 or 4 steps forward, and then other days it's 2 or 3 steps back. Some days we look at our sanctification and our Christian growth and we feel like we haven't really gone anywhere. And other days we look at our Christian growth and we feel like, wow, we have gone 5 miles and we have progressed a lot in the last few years. So I would just like to encourage you that as you look to God as your standard of holiness, as your standard of sanctification, He is a God of love. He is a God of grace. He has given you His Word. He has given you His Spirit to help you in this process, this progressiveness to be more like Him. And He understands and is aware when it is a slow process, when it is a plod, and He is also aware and understands when it's a race. So as we continue to grow, as we continue to strive, we are to grow to be more like God in the good days, in the bad days, and we have a God carrying us the whole time.